Okay, I have received a ton of requests from gals who've been to my events to post a tutorial on how to do the color chart so that they can practice at home. And I thought I might as well leave that to all of you guys. So I went ahead and in my profile on Instagram, there is a link that's normally to my blog, but right now it is to a Google Drive link that has this color chart that I created for you guys to go ahead and print. It's super light, but after you're done painting on it, you won't be able to see the lines, and it just makes for a really pretty piece of artwork. So you can go ahead and go to that Google Drive link, print out your own color chart on watercolor paper. When you go to print it, you're gonna want to print it to fill the whole page, and then you're good to go. And once you have that done and you have it in front of you, your starting reference is this upper left-hand square that is completely empty. You'll see that there's a line on the rest of the grid that goes right down the middle, and that is to divide up some colors as you go. So you just want to make sure that when you have your paper in front of you, that your upper left-hand corner is completely empty and does not have a line through it. And then you are going to take a pen or a pencil and you're going to write out your colors in order of what your paint set is. I recommend doing it in pencil in case you make a mistake, but I have a pen in front of me right now, so I'm just going to use that. So in the second to the left square, you'll start with red, then orange, then yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, and black. There are a lot of these color charts all over Pinterest, but sometimes a video reference is just easier. That's why I thought I would do this for you all. Then you go down, leaving this upper left-hand corner blank, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, and black, just like that. Okay? Then you're gonna take your paintbrush, and I'm just using the one that comes in the set. This set is the Prang watercolors half pan. I get this at the Exchange. You can get it on Amazon. I like this as the step up from the Crayola set, so they're great for beginners. You'll wet your paintbrush, and then you're gonna, just where you put your reference words for your colors, you're gonna put a little bit of that paint in that same box that you did your reference word with. Rinse your brush really well between the colors. Just drop a little. You could paint a square, you could paint a circle. I just putting little blobs on. Just keep going down your row. Okay, so now we have all of our reference colors up and ready to go, and we're gonna start mixing colors working from the left across the page of your rows. So what that looks like is that first square that we have here, and it's the first square with the line drawn through the middle, is just red mixed with red. So it's like a multiplication table with an X and Y axis, and whatever it connects to, those are the two colors that you're gonna mix. So in the diagonal line is going to differentiate between a saturated color and a dilution of that color. So for red, we have that little triangle. First, I have a wet brush. I'm gonna go pick up the red paint and just paint that top half of the triangle. Fill it in. So that is a saturated red because we're doing wet paint on dry paper and it's making it really vivid. Now we want to show the dilution of that by dipping my brush into my water because I had some red paint on it, tapping it off, and then taking whatever's left on my paintbrush, which it was still a little too dark. I'm going to stop, dip again, maybe a little wiggle in the water, come back to that. There we go. And turn it into the second triangle. I'm taking care not to have my triangles touch because the second I do that, the paints would run together and it would ruin the look of having the saturated versus the dilution. So that is red, but now we have to mix colors, and because we're going across our row, every color we're mixing with, the base is gonna be red. So we're mixing red with orange next. You'll go ahead and pick up some red, and either in your pan, or if you have an extra mix plate, you'll pick up a dot of red, put it into your pan, rinse your brush really well, go pick up some orange, put it into the red, and then mix it together. And that is going to be our first color that we paint in our full square of red meets orange. So right here, red meets orange goes in here. And when I paint these, I don't touch the grid lines as I go. I leave space just because I get nervous that my colors are going to accidentally touch and start to bleed together. So that is my saturated version of red and orange. Now, because I have that diagonal line going through, my dilution of that is going to go right here, because you see that Y and X axis of red and orange in the dilution half of the page goes down. So I have the red orange paint on my paintbrush. I dip it in the water, little shake, little tap, and whatever's left on your brush, you'll come and you'll put in the diluted version of that red orange we just created. Just like that, okay? That is really light, but that's okay. When it dries, it'll show up a little bit more. And I like the exaggerated difference between the two. Okay, so rinse your brush really well. Go back over to your red, pick that up, put it in a new spot on your tray. Rinse your brush again. The key between all of this is to make sure you're rinsing out that brush in between each color so you don't accidentally blend into your pan. But we're working across our row, so we just put red into our pan, and now we're gonna put yellow mixed in with that red. Pick up that yellow, put it into the red, mix it together, and with that full saturated color on my brush, I'm gonna paint it into the next square. Now everybody's color chart is going to look a little different based off of whether or not you're heavy-handed with mixing your colors, or you're a little bit lighter when you add a color in. So as I'm doing these, as I go across the row, I try to keep an even amount of paint mixed into each time I drop it into my pan. So there's my saturated red, yellow. Dip it into the water again, tap it off, come down here to do the diluted version. And that's okay, yeah. Paint out your diluted version square. Okay. And then rinse your brush. And the next color we're gonna paint is a mix between red and green. So with a clean brush, go grab your red again, find a little spot somewhere on your pan, drop it in, rinse it really well, go pick up your green, drop it in, mix it together, I was a little heavy-handed with the green when I added that in, so I'm gonna come back and rinse out my brush and pick up just a pinch more red and put it into there. There we go. And then go ahead and paint that saturated version of your red-green. Rinse your brush. Well, not full rinse, just dip it in, tap it off, and then your red-green dilution goes right down here. Just like that. Okay. Rinse again. Next color. Again, X and Y axis going across, red meets blue. So, red gets picked up. Once again, dropped in. Rinse your brush. Go grab blue. Put that in. Mix them together. Take that saturated color. Paint it right on to your red-blue square. Diluted version will go here. So dip your brush in your water, tap it off. It has a little bit of that color left. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, that's a little bit too much color in it. So I rinsed my brush one more time. There we go. Don't be afraid to stop mid-square and either add more color to your brush or rinse your brush out a little bit more so that you really get that difference of saturation versus dilution. Okay, rinse your brush again. Let's go get red and purple now. The great thing is, because you're creating these colors on your pan, when they dry, you can just reactivate them again with water and you'll have that color that you created ready to go. So you'll be able to use these colors in whatever project you do next. Red purple goes here. It's like a really pretty eggplant color. Look at that. I used to not be into purple, but I feel like as I'm getting older, I just love that color more and more. Okay, there's my red purple saturation. My dilution will go here. Dip in, tap off, come over here, paint that dilution. A lot of times when you're painting with watercolors, you're mainly going to use the diluted color anyways, but it's good to have that saturation reference so that if you're trying to deepen a painting, you see what colors you need to pull. Okay. When we come into our browns and blacks, we need to be very careful with how much brown or black we add to whatever color we're mixing with, because these two, the pigment in them will just take over. So for the red brown I'm about to do, I go and pick up a hefty amount of red. My brush is so filled with red paint. Drop it down and rinse that brush off. But when I come to get the brown, I am only going to use the tip of my paintbrush, pick a little bit of that brown, and mix it in. And that will give me a color shift, but it won't let the brown take over that beautiful red. Saturated versions on my brush, putting it into that top square as we go down the row. Look at that, beautiful. Give me a lipstick color in that. Okay, dilution will go down here. Dip your brush in, tap it off, let it in. Just like that. And then again, for our next color, we're doing red and black. You want to use barely any black. So grab a bunch of red, put it in your pan, rinse the brush. Just the tip of my brush is grabbing that black. I'm actually nervous that I put too much on there. Let's try that again. Rinse my brush one more time. Just the tip. Put into the red. There we go. Mixed it together. take that saturated version, put it there. See how the black didn't take over? Be very careful with your brown and your black squares that they only have a little bit of that heavy black and brown pigment. Let's do the dilution here. There you go. I'm going to speed up the video from here on out, but just remember that you are matching your X and Y axis as you go. So when you do, you're gonna have these double triangles all the way down your page, because that is where, for example, our next orange and orange meets right here. So we know they'll be saturated and diluted, and then so forth. So here we go. There's your completed watercolor chart. Just remember to rinse your brush between everything. Take your time. If you don't like the color that you mix, it's okay to rinse your brush out and add one of the other colors to it again till you get the colors that you like for your chart. You'll be surprised, but everybody's charts look a little bit different. And then the cool thing is that after you're done, you have all of these gorgeous colors mixed and ready to go for whatever project you're working on. I have pans of these that I did years ago, and I just reactivate the colors anytime I need them. So this is a basic watercolor chart. And don't forget that the link to the Google Drive document to print your chart is in my profile. Happy making!